So here I am in my art studio of disaster. It is a mess right now. And I said I wasn't going to do any more videos until the new year, but obviously I lied about that because I am here, back here, and I want to talk about the Duggar's attorney, Travis story. I have to talk about this because this popped up this morning on a bunch of social media I'm on because there was speculation as to why Without a Box of Kleenex wasn't covering this. And I have a pretty good reason, idea why. Okay, so what has happened according to the Sun, and I'm going to talk about why the Sun is kind of wrong on this in a minute. You know, Michelle and Jim Bob had custody of their grand nephew, okay, and they took custody, I think it was 2016, of this child at the behest of the child's mother, I think. Don't quote me on that. Let me give my disclaimer. I'm Suzanne Tidkemeyer. I used to write for Pathos, a column called No Longer Quivering. I talked about the very thing that the Duggars are involved in, the quiverful evangelical movement and the different toxic levels that involve with that. That's what I mean when I say taco church, totalitarian, authoritative church organization. So that's what they're all involved in. And Jim Bob Duggar is nothing if not a control freak. At least allegedly. I'm going to say that he's allegedly a control freak. Even his daughter, Jill, admits it. Jill, we love you here. So these are just my opinions based upon my years of covering this subject. And do your own research on these things. All of these documents are freely available online that I'm going to talk about to support what I'm saying. So form your own opinions on that. And these are just my opinions. My opinions based upon so many things. And apparently in September, Michelle and Jim Bob signed guardianship of the child over to the child's grandmother. Okay, grandmother and grandfather. This is according to an article in the Sun. They hired. What am I saying? They turned guardianship back over to Michelle's sister Caroline and Caroline's husband, okay, John, back in September, okay. I don't know for sure what is going on there, but I would say just based upon what little I can read between the lines with this story, somebody ain't happy about some kind of custody somewhere in this thing. And so what they are doing is they are fighting it. And Caroline, I don't know how she pronounces it, and John have hired Travis Story. And why do we have to talk about Travis Story? Well, he's been Josh's attorney, and he's been kind of a mixed bag of success in his defenses of Josh. I think he's mostly on the downside from defending Josh. One of the reasons that I say this, that I come up with this, and I say it is what it is, one of my favorite terms, is because Travis Story, if I recall correctly, is the same attorney that Josh sold his house to for like $1 or $10 or some ridiculous amount to keep it out of the hands of people like Danica Dillon. And you remember who Danica Dillon is. Danica Dillon is the exotic dancer and adult entertainer that claims to have had two sexual encounters with Josh involving violence. She claims that he violently abused her. Okay. And she tried to sue him. Settled out of court, is my understanding. And she suddenly turned up in a brand new car, an expensive one. So nobody knows for sure what kind of deal was brokered. My understanding is it was brokered through Travis Story's law firm. Travis has been defending Josh grabby hands for quite some time. So we got that. And then we got him defending Josh in the ALB properties investment scandal. What was that, you say? Well, Josh was buying distressed properties under his LLC, ALB Investments, I think is what they said it was. Let me get the official name. Okay. ALB Investments. I was right. ALB Investments. Okay. And why is this important? Well, you're about to find out. So he's buying these properties, and he bought one that there was a man already living on who had been paying the taxes on the property, a man by the name of Carl Eccles. Eccles said that he had made a deal with the owner of the property, and he had been paying the owner of the property, and he had receipts where he had been paying the taxes for quite some time, as well as receipts showing payments of different sorts involving the property. So here you have Josh buying the property for $1,000, okay, through ALB properties. So Carl Nichols was suing for a quiet title. He wanted to receive the title. He claimed that he owned it, that Josh Duggar did not own it, and that the guy who sold it to Josh for $1,000 did not have the right to sell it since he had sold it to him, and there had not been a title issued. Legal lesson, folks. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm a writer and artist. So take this with a giant grain of salt. Never buy property that you cannot get an official title on at the time. Just don't do that. That is a silly way to end up losing your property. I was worried about buying property here because here the laws are even crazier, and it's easy to buy a piece of property and have somebody snatch it out from under you if you don't have a million miles of of legal work done. So we went through that, and so we're going back to Josh and Travis. So Travis and Josh have been like this. So much so that ALB Properties, let's go back to that. ALB Investments had Travis Story, the attorney, listed as the what was it? Story was listed as the manager for ALB Investments, LLC, on the company's report for years 2015 to 2019. And here's the thing, you cannot Oh, Rebecca, yeah, please tell me, because I don't know. I just know how it is here, and I know that I had to go jump through a million hoops, and we had to have our property purchase recorded in the national database here. At the only time you need to do quiet titles if you have a dirty double dealer. Well, that's what they had, was a dirty double dealer. Sold it to Josh for $1,000 and had already sold it to Carl Eccles. So there you go. So because Story was also, sounds like Josh's pals, yeah. So Story was also the attorney as well as being a partner in the ALB Investments. So Carl Nichols asked for him to be removed from the case, and the Arkansas courts did remove him from the case, and they missed 2 court dates on this after they removed Story and some other lawyer it took over. Yeah, Josh's pals are notorious. Hey, Grace Peter, are notorious for doing this crap. It's Arkansas. Everything is all interconnected and goofy in Arkansas. The way their politics run, the way that some of their deals run. If you got money, you can live like you're a gangster in places like Arkansas if you have money. You can do that here too, but I choose not to do that. I choose to reserve my violence for something worthwhile. Um, so then after that, they quieted the title and they issued it to Mr. Nichols because he had pretty compelling laws. He had pretty compelling reasons and he had receipts. He had receipts galore on this, that he was buying this, that he was paying the property taxes. And then Josh et al. Tried to turn around and come back on this and file an appeal. So far, the appeal was not entertained, was my understanding. If that bar exam must be pretty easy. I suspect it is. If you have people that are doing slimy stuff like this and not understanding that being a partner in an organization that you're representing as a lawyer is kind of verboten. You just don't do that. This is why lawyers hire other lawyers to defend them when things go wrong. They don't usually defend themselves. Was it Shakespeare that said, a client who has himself as a lawyer has a fool? I think it was. And he may be right about that from what I can tell. So, Story, like I said, I believe he was the attorney that ended up with Josh's house for like $10 back when Danica Dillon was trying to sue Josh for sexual abuse. A fool for a client, that's it. So there has been all this enmeshment. So now Story is yet again enmeshed with the Duggars. He's not representing Michelle and Jim Bob. They're having somebody from Story's law firm represent them, but he himself is not representing them. He is representing Michelle's sister and Michelle's mother-in-law in this thing. Now, the article in the Sun doesn't say who all they're suing for custody and who wants custody or any of that, but it is I suspect it's probably going to be the mother. And I hope she has a pretty compelling reason to be able to retake custody. I hope she's completed parenting classes and gone through CPS and done everything she was supposed to do to make her case as strong as possible to getting the child back. Because if she's not willing to take those steps, this does not bode well for the future and the kid. So that's all my thoughts on the Duggars in this today. If you ever have time to read, and I'm going to put a link to this in the description, there is a site called Case Text, and there is an opinion and case details available there that I read through before this, because like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't even know much about the law beyond, Costa Rican corporation law, Costa Rican property law, and a few things in the States. So there you go. And there's something else I wanted to say. Oh, I want to talk about the recent dramas, okay? And I'm not going to mention any names or go into any of this, but I am going to throw some shade, but not at anybody in the anti-community or the pro-community. I was asked yesterday by somebody, after all this was going on, this drama, and this one said this, and this one said that, and this one told me this, and this one asked why. Okay. And this also plays into the whole thing with the Duggars and me writing for NLQ at No Longer Quivering after I left my old church. This plays into my 10 years of writing and looking into toxic taco type churches. I don't like injustice. I tend to flip out when I hear injustice. For me, that is one of those things that if I see somebody that is being unjust to someone for no reason, okay, not defending themselves, not trying to make things better, but just unjust out of the blue, I think back to my teenagehood, where I First time in my life, I ran up against hard injustice because I had been raised rather sheltered. I'm just going to call it that, what it was. I'd been raised very sheltered and didn't have a lot of injustice in my life beyond, seeing systemic injustice and not really knowing enough about it to hold strong opinions. So early in my high school career, and you have to remember in those days, I was a straight A student. I studied. I was a teacher's pet. I was the suck up every time. I was in library club, for God's sakes. I don't tell you something. So I had biology, okay? And I think it was biology. I'm pretty sure it was. It was a science class, we're going to call it. But I'm pretty sure it was biology. And sitting behind me was big man on campus, okay? The football player. I believe he was the quarterback at my school. And the school I was attending then had always fielded a really great football team. It was huge. That was the big thing at that school was football. I never gave a flip about football, just like I don't give a flip about it now. My husband watches it, and I'm like, whatever. I come in here or I go in our bedroom and read when he watches it because he tends to scream and holler and yell at the screen, and I'm looking at him like, really, dude? So this football player sat right behind me, and every time we would have a test, he would say, psst, 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 psst. Let me see your test. Let me see your answers. And I would look back at him like, no, I'm not letting you see my test. I'm not letting you cheat off my paper. Like I said, I was total line, teacher loving, good girl in those days. And we would do this dance, this stupid dance, every time there was a test. And I'm not going to say this guy's name, even though those of you who live in Louisiana will know pretty sure who I'm talking about. I moved away from there, and I was actually kind of glad because one of the things that happened that really started me thinking hard about injustice and makes me hate injustice when somebody is trying to game the system or game people or push your narrative and they're not operating in reality, and I just lose my mind. One time, the very last time he did this, he said, psst, psst, let me look at your test. And I said, no, yet again. And he and I got called up to the teacher's the teacher's desk. And he said, they asked me what happened. I said, he was trying to copy off my paper. I told him no. And he said, oh, no. She was trying to copy off my paper. She was begging me for answers. Well, the teacher didn't know what to think, so we both got sent to the principal's office. I guess the vice principal's office, whoever handles discipline at the school. We told our tales. I said, he was trying to copy off me, and I said, no, that's what happened. This happens every time there's a test with this joker. They asked him what happened, and he spun his tail again. I was trying to copy off him. Well, guess what happened? Even though I protested that I was an A student, I was the one that pulled a 3-day suspension for cheating. He was patted upon the head and sent back to scamper off to class again. Well, I pulled a 3-day suspension and told not to cheat off anybody again. I was furious about it at the time. Furious. I can't even begin to tell you, but it started me thinking about injustice. And I was telling a friend of mine today and somebody yesterday, the sting of that never really leaves you. How does it never really leave you? Well, to add insult to grievous injury. He and I went on to the same school, to the same university after high school. He got a full football scholarship. Me scraping money together, doing this, doing that, doing all kinds of crazy ass jobs, as I like to say, my 1,001 jobs at that time. And I got to watch him be a football star in my college too, my university, and where he was the king, even though I knew he was dumb as a box of rocks. And they were just pushing him on through. This is the same university my mother-in-law taught at. And she knocked heads with the football staff and the basketball staff because they were pushing her to pass the football and the basketball players, even though they did no work. She refused to do that. She was like one of the few at that university. So I got to see this guy go on to play for the New Orleans Saints, and then he went on to be a television sports announcer. This guy got to have the golden life, and everybody cut him slack. And I still felt that sting, even when he died a couple of years ago. I was like, grumbling because this guy slid his entire life. So I always tell everybody that is where my dislike of privilege and, hey, Renelle Smith, that's where my dislike of privilege and people being, allowed to use others. That's why I hate injustices. Hey, I hate injustice because I experienced it in high school for the first time. Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about the Duggars and about how they've hired Travis Story yet again, and how Travis Story's enmeshed in all of Josh's investments. He didn't get Josh off his trial, his last trial. He didn't let Josh win when Josh was trying to get title of that land he bought for $1,000 off the dude that had another guy living on the property who'd been paying on it and paying the taxes. Yeah, there's something hinky going on. Oh, they hired Story to represent Michelle's sister and brother-in-law in the custody case over the great nephew that Michelle and Jim Bob had primary guardianship of. I'm going to guess that guardianship is similar to custody in Arkansas. I don't know. I'm not an Arkansas lawyer. But Travis is now yet again enmeshed in their business like he always has been. He recently filed for an appeal of Josh's federal sentence, and it was shot down. So there you go. And I also had a short little speculation as to why do we think Without a Box of Kleenex is not covering this or any of the recent Duggar news. Is it possible she got a cease and desist from the Duggars? Maybe she got a motion to shut the hell up or whatever. I don't even know. I don't even know what you would call that. Was it beyond a cease and desist? I'm not sure what happened with all of them. I hope not. Todd Chrisley's mother passed away. She said she was only going to cover sister wives during Christmas because that's its most lucrative month. She said that last year. I don't believe her. She would cover the Duggars anytime she thinks she's getting eyeballs on the page. We used to laugh about how Josh Duggar was the cash cow that kept on giving. But I would love to find out if she got a cease and desist. Same here, same here, same here. Nanny Faye is still alive. That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. I hope that that they get their sentences overturned, Todd and Julie, because it's kind of effed up with our criminal justice system in the States that they got the same amount of time for what they did as Josh Duggar did for, CP. I think that's all kinds of wrong. Josh, they should have sent him for a lot longer if they were going to use that as their benchmark dollar amount. Time amount. That's the exact same time amount that Jack Shope of First Baptist Church in Hammond, Indiana got for doing SA to a 15-year-old girl. Same amount of time. I saw a post with no credible news. Yeah. That's the thing. There are people that will make this stuff up specifically to get hits on their page, hits on their YouTube video. I've actually fallen for a few of those YouTube videos where I saw somebody died and I clicked on it and went, oh no! And the sad news the other day that Andre Brown, Brower died. I think that's how you say his name. I used to love him on Homicide: Life on the Street. So it was a sad day. When he and Belzer died, Richard Belzer, I shed some tears. So, yeah, so I don't pay much attention to these things until I see an actual credible report at a news outlet. As much as I don't like People Magazine for their powder, their puff pieces they do on celebrities, they tend not to publish the wrong news. I saw a post. Yeah, so I'm guessing that Nanny Faye is still alive. I hope so, and I hope Todd and Julie get their sentence reduced, overturned, whatever, because it's just out of line. The sentencing guidelines for these things are just all over the place. How you can essay a 15-year-old girl and get that amount of time and have the top five, one of the top five worst CP cases a federal agent has ever seen and get the same amount of time just kind of blows my mind. And it turned out that the thing that their conviction is based on, the agent gave some incorrect information that it had already been paid and they had the receipt for it. But the agent stated on the stand that the tax was outstanding, even though it had already been paid. So this world is a whole mess, and I don't know what to do about our legal system as far as the states go. I much prefer it here where it's really hard to sue somebody, and you have to have quite a bit of money to do it. My son is charging me $5 to interpret the rights and justice. I think that is a reasonable amount, Kara. I really do, because the righteous gemstones is complex. I've looked at it multiple times to come up with the things I've thought about them. And every now and then I see something new. Like, oh my goodness, like I have to slow down and look at something. And I'm looking at it now and going, how did I not know that, well, just a lot of things. And by the end of the first season, I knew that Keith and Kelvin were fighting their feelings for each other. But there's a lot of crazy undercurrents that I've just laughed over so many times. The dance sequence where Keith is having his ice cream cone and he's watching his former satanic buddies dancing to some song, Lucifer. To me, that is just pink gemstone. That was the thing that put me in. That was episode number 3, season 1. So I'm looking forward to that. First of the year, I'm going back to all of that. Right now, I'm going to be kind of up and down with my videos. Why am I going to be up and down? Because I'm dealing with some stuff. My husband has prostate cancer. We have been through the ringer with him going to cardiologists and other places to get clearance and discovering he had an enlarged heart and a lot of other things. So I'm not quite myself. I've messed up my leg. As you see, I've got my cane here. I'm having to cane it around the house. My leg is wrapped up in my ace bandage. 10 weeks ago, I injured my ankle pretty badly, and it won't heal. I've had it looked at. I'm needing something fun. It is fun. It is so much fun, that show. And it's been great for me because I can look at it and say, oh, yeah, that's about greed, or that's about lust, or that's about everybody having insecurities. Because there have been a couple episodes it's like every character is operating out of insecurity, every single one. There's a lot there. And I got to say, I am loving the arc of Jesse's son that ran off to Hollywood. He is something else. And seeing him make this kind of turn, this arc, and being the successor to his grandfather, Levi, has been a good thing. And seeing Levi's past, Eli, what am I saying? Levi. Levi is a long-haired guitar player. Seeing Eli's past as a wrestler has been the funniest thing of all time. A wrestler his move was to break everybody's thumbs. I'll keep a small notebook and write questions for the things I don't go right ahead. I'll be more than happy to answer them. I can't wait until season 4, and they're filming right now, is my understanding. Like I said, right before COVID, I was in Charleston and ran across the Locust Grove Prayer Center and a bunch of gemstone stuff, was just squealing because I had just seen season 1. And I've told my husband, I love Charleston. I was only there for a week and a half, but I loved it. And I could gladly move there. That's one of the places on my list that I would be happy to retire to. They had everything I need, and that's saying something, including nearby beaches. And so that's where I am with everything. And that's why I haven't quite been myself, and why I ran into an equipment problem. My main computer died. So I had to go back on my 10-year-old one. This still works well, by the way, while I waited to buy another one. And then I had to figure out what I wanted, what I needed, all of that. And so I got one recently, and I've been struggling to get everything transferred over, because in June, when I fell down the airline stairs and I lost my cell phone, and everything was linked to my cell phone, everything. So I'm having to use all these different crazy techniques to get around the 2-system authentication. And I was able to do it everywhere but X. X does not have a good mechanism for that, and they don't have decent customer service. So I ended up to reactivate a 14-year-old Twitter account again. I have first already and looking where to get the other stuff in. Oh, that's the best, and you don't have to pay on that. I went ahead and signed up for HBO Max here. And while I was running around between computers, I could not access it at all. So I had to go back in there and reset all that too. And here it's only like $5 a month. It's not expensive at all. It's been worth it. I've gotten to watch The Gilded Age. I'm getting ready to rewatch Big Love. I'm getting ready to rewatch Boardwalk Empire. All these shows that I've loved in the past that I did not see in order when they came out. So I'm looking for that. And I'm probably going to rewatch Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon before House of the Dragon episode series 2 comes out, because I'm not sure about House of the Dragon. I'm not sure if I love it or hate it. I'm just not sure. It's just weird compared to Game of Thrones, and I don't think it's quite as good, but I could be wrong. Okay, you guys, I am going to go. Now you know what's going on with me. It's a whole lot of stuff going on, and I'm just kind of like full speed ahead. Damn the tornadoes and the torpedoes. It is what it is. I may be back before first of the year. I will be traveling a week from today. And I'm looking at trying to scrub my entire house, which is quite the chore because it's pretty good size. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.